Welcome to This Explainer. Look, we really need to talk about a looming global event that is gearing up to completely reshape our immediate future. We are diving into the frankly terrifying climate predictions for the year 2026. Experts are currently warning that this specific year could bring an unprecedented level of global heat. So, we're going to break down the complex science behind it, the historical precedents we have to learn from, and the very direct impacts this is going to have on everything from our daily grocery bills to human survival. Let's jump right into the data and see exactly what we're up against.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The 1877 famine. 2. The science of El Niño. 3. 2026, a deadly forecast. 4. Food, farming, and heat. 5. The plight of outdoor workers. And finally, 6. Steps for individual action.
All right, Section 1, the 1877 famine. Because to truly grasp the raw, catastrophic power of what experts are predicting, we really have to look back in time. We've got to understand that we aren't just talking about a slightly warmer summer. We're talking about a massive disruption to the entire planet's weather system.
20 million. Just let that staggering number sink in for a second. During the summer of 1877, a famine swept through the Madras Presidency in British India, utterly devastating the population. Roughly 2 crore, or 20 million lives, were lost in India alone. And what's absolutely crucial to understand here is that this was not some isolated local tragedy.
Because that exact same year, massive famine struck China, claiming another 20 to 30 million lives. Brazil saw 2 million perish. The devastation literally stretched across the globe to Egypt, Morocco, Ethiopia, and South Africa. Thousands of miles away, Minnesota, the weather was so bizarrely warm they actually dubbed it the year without a winter. The root cause of all this? It wasn't a war, it wasn't an earthquake, or even a global disease. It was a singular, natural phenomenon that started in a relatively small patch of the ocean. Which brings us nicely to Section 2, the science of El Niño. To understand what went down in 1877 and what is coming in 2026, we have to talk about the actual mechanics of this weather anomaly. The phenomenon is known as El Niño. The term was actually coined by 17th century Peruvian fishermen, and it translates affectionately to little boy. But despite its kind of innocent historical name, its planetary impact is just massive. At its core, El Niño is simply the unusual warming of waters in the eastern and central parts of the Pacific Ocean, an area where the water is typically quite cold. Think of it like this. Under normal conditions, you have these incredibly strong trade winds blowing from east to west across the Pacific. They push the warm surface water over toward Australia, which brings them rain, while pulling up this cold, nutrient-rich water off the coast of South America. But during an El Niño, those trade winds just kind of stall out. They weaken. The warm water sloshes right back toward South America, and the rain shifts to the middle of the open ocean. Suddenly, places like Australia and Southeast Asia get incredibly dry, leading to weak monsoons, while other parts of the world experience totally bizarre weather shifts.
Section 3, 2026, a deadly forecast. Okay, so we know the history, and we know the science. Now let's bring this right into the present day. Why are experts warning that the summer of 2026 could literally be one of the most dangerous in human history? Let's break down the terrifying math of our modern era. Before industrialization, a super El Niño would raise global temperatures by maybe 1.4 or 1.5 degrees Celsius. But today, well, because of climate change, our baseline temperature is already permanently elevated by 1.4 degrees. So when the predicted 2026 super El Niño drops its 1.5 degrees directly on top of that, we are staring down a 2.9 degrees Celsius anomaly. It's like sitting in a room that's already a sweltering 40 degrees and someone decides to just plug in a space heater. That is the deadly combination of climate change and Super El Niño.
And honestly, the timing couldn't be worse. Current advisories predict a 61% chance of this forming between May and July of 2026. This means the heat is going to peak exactly when vital monsoon rains in places like India are supposed to be at their absolute strongest. It's a massive heat surge right when the agricultural sector desperately needs rainfall.
Section 4. Food, farming, and heat. You see, this lack of rain isn't just some meteorological curiosity. It triggers a profound domino effect. Let's look at exactly how this global anomaly ripples right through the economy and into our daily lives.
It all comes down to 4 distinct layers of impact. First, you get a below-normal monsoon. Second, keep in mind that in nations like India, around 51% of agriculture is entirely dependent on those monsoon rains. Third, That lack of rain, combined with rising temperatures, creates intense, record-breaking heat waves. And the fourth layer, less food produced, simply means soaring food prices at the market. So how high will those prices soar? Well, historical data shows that during a regular El Niño year, global non-fuel prices rise by about 5%. But during a Super El Niño year, inflation on food specifically can spike up to 9%. This directly connects massive climate data right to your household grocery budget. If a family doesn't have a solid financial buffer, a 9% jump in food costs is absolutely devastating.
Section 5. The plight of outdoor workers. While macroeconomic data and grocery bills are absolutely critical, we really need to look at this crisis through the eyes of the people actually living it. Imagine for a second that your entire livelihood depends on standing out under the open sky. Imagine being one of the 380 million, or 380 crore, informal outdoor workers in India. We're talking about rickshaw pullers, street vendors, delivery drivers. When the 2026 heat wave hits, these workers don't have the luxury of just retreating into an air-conditioned office. They have no paid leave, no health insurance, and basically zero legal protections to fall back on when the weather becomes literally unsurvivable.
And rising temperatures actively steal their livelihood. For just 1 degree rise in temperature, a worker's daily earnings drop by about 14%. On severe heatwave days, they lose up to 40% of their income. Why? Because they are forced to spend their already shrinking wages on pure survival, buying extra water, ice, or medicine just to make it through a single shift. And even when the shift finally ends, there's no relief. The real silent threat here is nighttime heat. In 2024, daytime temperatures in Delhi rose by 1.8 degrees, but nighttime temperatures spiked by a massive 4.4 degrees. When the human body can't cool down at night, the risk of heat stroke just multiplies. This is heavily driven by the urban heat island effect, where concrete traps heat all day and vents it out at night, and it creates a cruel paradox, right? People run air conditioners to cool their homes, but the exhaust from those EC units makes the outside environment even hotter for the outdoor workers who can't afford them.
Tracking the true human toll of these heat waves is also incredibly complex. The source material highlights a significant discrepancy in the data between government agencies. For instance, from 2000 to 2020, the National Crime Records Bureau reported over 20,000 heat-related deaths, while the Indian Meteorological Department recorded only around 10,000. Often, this happens because doctors will list the immediate physical failure, like cardiac arrest or severe dehydration, on the death certificate rather than officially acknowledging the heat wave as the primary trigger.
On top of that, official classifications play a huge role in how the crisis is managed. Currently, heat waves are not included among India's 12 notified natural disasters, unlike cold waves, for example. Because it isn't categorized as a notified disaster, compensation funds from the National Disaster Response Fund, which normally mandate a payout for confirmed natural disaster deaths, are not systematically distributed for heat-related casualties. Section 6. Steps for individual action. Okay, the data we've covered is heavy, and those predictions for 2026 are honestly daunting. But the purpose of this explainer is not just to throw terrifying numbers at you. We need to pivot to practical, empowering steps. What can we actually do about this today? First, we have to look closely at our local environments. Studies show that down at the pedestrian level, shade from trees can drop temperatures by a massive 12 degrees Celsius. It's a lifesaver. Yet deforestation continues at a rapid pace. In 2024 alone, 18,200 hectares of primary forest were cut in India. The source data presents a stark reality. For every 1 square kilometer of new trees planted, 18 square kilometers of old trees are lost. And to make matters worse, newly planted saplings often have a very low survival rate. Which leads us directly to a quick checklist of sustainable daily habits we can all adopt to reduce our individual heat island contributions. First, become an advocate for local biodiversity. Prioritize protecting the old, established trees in your neighborhood from being cut down. They do the heavy lifting for urban cooling. Second, protect vulnerable people around you. Stay hydrated yourself, but also share water, offer shade, and give out oral rehydration solution packets, which are incredibly cheap, to outdoor workers in your community. Third, look into reducing your carbon footprint by switching to solar energy. With prices dropping, installing solar panels on your roof or balcony directly cuts your reliance on fossil fuel-heavy power grids. We have to take action, because this El Niño of 2026, it won't be the last. As global base temperatures keep rising, these massive heat events will only become more severe. And it leaves us with a provocative, frankly sobering question.
For children born in 2026, will they ever know the milder summers of the past? Or are we currently building a future where a scorching 45 degrees Celsius summer simply becomes their everyday normal? The choices we make today, from protecting our local trees to rethinking our energy sources, will write the answer to that question. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.